Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for anything to do with you, the entrepreneur, whether it's about how to raise money, invest it right, save it, or strategies related to hiring and innovation and anything and everything related to the life of an entrepreneur. Tonight, it gives me great pleasure to welcome on the show someone who needs not much introduction. He's joined us on past editions of the Leaders of Tomorrow to talk to our entrepreneurs from the heart, to give us his personal advice about how he's managed to grow his business and how in 2020 he's managed to really raise the morale of his employees and his vision for 2021. I would like to welcome on the show tonight Harsh Mariwala. Mr. Mariwala, pleasure is always having you joining us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow to talk to our entrepreneurs about all the things that matters most to them, should matter, and why it matters. I want to start by talking about a tweet that you put out not so long ago, which is actually a quote by Steve Jobs, which says about half of what separates successful entrepreneurs from unsuccessful ones is perseverance. And that is perhaps what 2020 has been all about for most of us, Mr. Mariwala, particularly so for entrepreneurs. Wouldn't you agree?
I would like to add a little bit more. I just took that tweet from Steve Jobs, but to me, I think you need to combine perseverance with passion because many
Mhm.
times they say passion is important, but if you don't combine that with perseverance, and suppose if there's a setback and you give it up, then it goes for a toss. So the keyword is grit, Grit, and I like that word grit. And I think our Ascent Conclave is also focusing on that subject of rebooting with grit.
Absolutely. So going into 2021, do you think then
Yeah.
perhaps the worst is behind us? Again, talking about what really a lot of experts have been telling us. We've been speaking with the chief economic advisor of the country here on the Leaders of Tomorrow
Hmm.
during the launch week, where he said that yes, we're definitely already in recovery mode. Would you agree?
So I think it depends a lot. I think we're talking of the overall economy or talking of a particular sector because as they say, the whole recovery is a K-shaped recovery where some sectors are doing well. So you see that those sectors, you have the upper side of K. And then there are certain sectors like hospitality, airlines, hotels, restaurants, not doing well. So they're in the bottom of K, bottom. So I think depending on what boat you are in, everybody is in a storm. Depending on what is the boat you are in, the recovery will be different. But overall, at an economic level, yes, of course, things have substantially improved compared to what we went through in the first quarter. The second quarter
Okay.
was better. From
Okay.
23%, our I think the growth in terms of GDP was in the range of about 10%. And this quarter, I definitely see a further fall in the degrowth of GDP. So it will be hopefully in lower single digit, maybe 3 to 5%. So things are getting back to normal, and people are saying now that this we have to learn to live with this. We need to take precautions. We need to wear masks. We need to do physical distancing. I don't like the word social distancing because socially, we want to be closer to each other. So physically distancing, but socially, like, through the virtual calls, we are, I think, far more connected these days. And many times,
Sure.
many friends whom I would meet once in a while, I meet them more often because of the social connections through virtual meetings.
Okay.
So the physical distancing has to increase. We have to take precautions. And if we take those precautions, the chances of us getting infected are much lower. On the COVID front, also, at least in a city like Bombay, things are much better compared to what they were. But there has to be caution. There has to be a lot of discipline. If we don't show discipline, we would experience what we are seeing in Europe and USA, the second wave. and we don't want that to happen. So it's very important that the next 2 months of festivity, Diwali is just gone by. We're going to see Christmas, New Year, and good weather. So that should not. That does not mean that people stop exercising caution. You have to be cautious. You, at least for this year, you have to be cautious for the next 6 months. And then once things are back to normal, once vaccines are given in substantial numbers, then one would come back to normalcy. But until then, one would have to exercise caution. And if we do that, then I personally think that the economy will do much better, because the government also has realized that the lockdown beyond a point doesn't pay off. We have to start leading normal lives. And if you are leading normal lives, then to that extent, there is demand for whatever we are doing, whether it's the car we are driving in, or with the food we are eating, or even the fact that we go out, we need more clothes. So the overall consumption cycle also will kick in.
Okay, speaking of the consumption cycle, I do want to talk about the RBI, which has said that the country, and I'm just reading off the headline of their report, is in his historical technical recession in the first half of 2021. Everyone is closely
Mm.
watching Diwali. You were just talking about that, and the kind of consumption that's going to come back, largely driven, of course, by the private sector. Early days
Yeah.
yet, very early days yet, but are you encouraged by the kind of trends that we've seen so far?
So I would again go back to, there is no universal trend which cuts across all businesses. And again, it's a K-shaped kind of a recovery where some sectors like the essentials, the FMC sector, have seen good demand. But some other sectors like I think clothing, fashion, apparels, things have improved but not come back to normal.
So, for an entrepreneur who's in the services sector, because services, you were just talking about physical distancing. The services sector, of course,
Yeah,
will perhaps take a little bit of more time compared to the manufacturing sector. For an entrepreneur
yeah,
who's in the services space, what is your advice
yes.
going into 2021? If they're taking a hit on their business, what should they keep in mind?
So, just to give a perspective, in the first quarter, that is April to June, in the services where there was physical touch involved, virtually all the businesses were shut. We have our skincare business under the brand name of Kaya, and we were shut in the first quarter. But second quarter, depending on the state, things started improving and started opening up. And the second quarter, we were doing, by the end of second quarter, we were doing 75% of our normal business.
True.
And now I think it's touched about 85% of our normal business. So things have improved, but still 75-80% doesn't mean that you start making money. You, uh,
Yeah.
you have to cut your costs. You have to manage your cash flows. You will have to take some tough decisions, like some of the centers, clinics which were not doing well. We have taken a decision to close them down because anyway they were not doing so well. So the pandemic
True.
actually triggered that kind of a decision. So in a way, pandemic has accelerated many of the trends, consumption trends which had begun,
True.
and whether it's positive or negative trend, they got accelerated because of pandemic. So coming back to your question on the service business, uh, depending on the recoveries in that particular sector of services, you will have to be cautious in terms of the costs. You will have to variabilize your cost as far as possible. And once things open up, then you have to give very high degree of comfort to your customers that you are taking enough precautions in the area of health, hygiene, immunity, so that there is repeat demand and people come back to you.
Interesting answer, Ms.
Yeah.
Mariwala. I just want to pick up two or three things from that. One is, as a leader for an entrepreneur who's watching this interview, how should you handle the area of crisis communication? How should you be approaching your shareholders and your employees, and sort of reassuring them about the changes that are perhaps taking place in the external environment and therefore having an impact on your business? How have you perhaps used that in your own business to
Yeah.
communicate with your
Yeah.
stakeholders?
So I think these are times of anxiety and people are quite stressed. Stress because of the fact that some of the businesses are not doing well. Stress because you're cooped up in a flat. Stress because children are not going to school. So the overall stress levels because of, and also the stress because of the fear of contracting COVID is increased dramatically. And stress coming from different angles. Stress because you're not able to exercise. And I think that managing stress is a very, very important part of the role of a leader. So, as you rightly put it, communication is very, very crucial. Uh, it's actually it's better to over communicate than under communicate. So we used
Okay.
to have town hall meetings every month, talking about what has been the month in the past, what are our plans for
Sure.
future. If we have to take some tough calls in terms of some reduction in salary, explain why we are doing it, involve them, that we are forced to do that. If we don't do that, we'll have to be closing down our own business completely. So I think if you are authentic and if you are open and if you communicate the truth, then the employees will definitely appreciate that you are showing all your cards on the table and not trying to give a wrong picture to them. So you have to be very,
Sure.
very authentic in your communication and make them experience what you're going through as an entrepreneur. And if you do that, then I think they will understand that the management is taking some tough decisions. But hopefully, these will last for short periods and things will get
Sure.
back to normal.
Sure, sir. I'd like to take a quick break on that note, but much more on the other side. Just stay tuned. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow and Tonight on the show. I'd like to welcome Harsh Mariwala. You were talking about the changes that you've seen and you've had to take at Marico. For an entrepreneur
Yeah.
who's seeing all these changes happening, at what point do you decide that, okay, now is perhaps the time for me to look at changing strategy, for me to pivot my business, and what do you base that decision on?
I think Marico was least affected compared to many other sectors because we
Mhm.
are in essentials. And from day one, we in the initial phases in the month of April and May, we had problem with supply chain. Our factories were not able to operate fully. Many times, if
Sure.
we had goods, then we were not able to transport it to our distributor because they were closed or the retailers were closed. So our challenges were more in the area of supply chain than demand in the first two
Sure.
months. And post that, I think things have normalized. So we are almost back to normal in our last quarter, that is July to September. We have had a 11% volume growth rate with the same period last year. So things are very much back to normal, and we've never had any cuts in salaries. We've not any people to go. We have started from the month of October. We gave increments for the year also. So things are very much normal. But in spite of that, we had to address all the concerns of our members, and in terms
Sure.
of anxiety, in terms of otherwise, if we had kept quiet, there would have been worries that what will the organization do. So if we are not going to cut salaries, then upfront you have to tell them that this is what it is. We are doing better, and we don't expect any salary cuts. And this has also given us an opportunity to get into the families and becoming closer to the family members of our employees. So we have taken many initiatives to be closer to them. For example, we have Zumba classes for children, we have cooking classes, we have hobbies, where not only the employees but the family members, the spouses, children, parents can also participate. And there are internal contests done, prizes are given. So utilize this opportunity to become get much more closer to the family because the family ultimately has a huge impact on the employee, and the family has a feel good factor about the organization. It will have a positive rub off on the employee. So we have actually gone overboard in doing all this. We have given yoga lessons, physiotherapy lessons, things like that. Lots and lots of initiatives. Every day you would have something or the other just to keep the family engaged.
Sounds like a fantastic company to be working at, a fantastic culture to be a part of.
Business is people, and
Yeah.
if you are in a people business, you have to try your utmost to keep them engaged, keep them motivated, because these kind of opportunities will never come to you. And if the employees feel that in bad times the organization is actually bent backwards in helping them, whether it's to deal with COVID safety issues, there may have been some cases where some family members may have got impacted. So how does an organization help? There were issues about mental health because people are going through depressions.
Yeah.
So helping in each and every area, not only to the employee but to the whole family, is something which you try to do it, and I think that has paid off good dividends.
Mr. Mariwala, I also want to talk about innovation and the role that it has had to play during this pandemic. Several
Yes,
industries reacting very quickly to the challenges and the opportunities, if I can call it that, being posed by the pandemic, whether it is hand sanitizers as a business, safety, health,
yes,
etc.
yes,
The
yeah,
role that
yeah.
innovation has really played when it comes to both Marico, what do you want entrepreneurs to keep in mind when it comes to innovation and the role that it really plays in the life of an entrepreneur?
I can look at innovation from different angles. As far as Marico is
Yeah,
concerned, one is for Marico itself and its core business. How has innovative approach helped us? So we saw an opportunity in launching a product to clean vegetables and fruits and remove them of the virus. And we were the
sure.
first one to launch a brand called Veggie Clean, which was launched, and it's just to put the fruits and vegetables in the liquid for a couple of minutes, and then it gets sanitized. So that was launched within a very short period of time in the month of May. And then on top of that, a whole range of sanitizers, protection products, whether it's
Sure.
um, disinfectants or any surface area we need to just disinfect. So a whole host of products came out from our end within a very, very short period of time. In the area of immunity also we saw a big opportunity. So we were able to launch pure honey, which doesn't have any added sugar. We just launched kada and turmeric milk and a value-added version or an upgraded version of Chavan Prash, which we call Chavan Amrit. So a whole host of newer opportunities were tapped, and the products were developed in record time and they were launched.
Sure.
And
Sure.
as far as the society is concerned, we have a Marico Innovation Foundation. So the foundation decided they realized in the month of March and April that there will be shortages of some critical equipment like PPE equipment, ventilators, respirators, and there would be an opportunity to develop some Indian products at a much lower price point compared to some international options. There would be a shortage of these equipment. So we threw a COVID challenge, COVID to Innovate challenge as we called it, and we pulled in 2.5 crores. 1 crore was contributed by Marico, 50 lakhs was contributed from my side, and 1 crore was contributed by Amit Chandra Foundation. And we launched that in the month of April. We got 600 final responses. We had an independent jury comprising of doctors, medical experts. Dr. Mashilkar was heading that. And we were able to finalize five candidates to whom we gave those grants to make them manufacture those products. And all of them were not in this business earlier. And not only that, but we help them scale up, help them market their product, help them get certifications. So I think we did a very good job within a very short period of
Sure.
time in making all this happen. And the
So,
cost of ventilators was like 20% of what imported ventilator would cost, and as effective, and with some more added features which are relevant for India. For example, if there's a power failure, then there was a backup mechanism, and all that can happen mainly in India. So there are Indian specific innovations which got launched because of this initiative.
sure, Mr. Mariwala.
Yeah,
As we're
yeah,
winding down this conversation, I do want to
yeah,
talk about the Ascent Conclave and talk about some
yeah,
of the areas that are really close to your heart. Every year we
yeah.
see the kind of innovative businesses really who come forward at the Ascent Conclave. Can you talk to us about
Yes.
that?
So Ascent is the initiative I started. It was my way of giving something back to the entrepreneurs. I realized in my journey as an entrepreneur that entrepreneurs struggle a lot in the initial phases of their business, and they don't have anybody to talk to. And they need a peer support system to manage their issues, whether it is the people issues or whether it's cash flow issues or whether it is relationship between the promoters. And if I created an ecosystem where entrepreneurs can learn from each other, then I would be giving my bit in terms of helping them scale up. So that had so now today we have 600 entrepreneurs associated with us on a regular basis. They meet every month in a confidential environment, what we call trust
Sure.
groups, And in addition to that, we have done a lot of webinars to them to manage each and every issue which was being faced because of the pandemic, whether it was the cash flow or whether it was how to handle labor or mental health. And I think we've acted as a great way to help them manage this crisis. And every year in
Sure.
Ascent, we have a conclave. So this year's conclave was planned around rebooting with grit, and we had excellent speakers in Dr. Raghuram Rajan with Deepak Parekh. Um, then we had Kiran Mazumdar Shaw, and we had Saurav Ganguly and Masaba Gupta, plus many other speakers. So this program, instead of being a full day program, was divided over four days from 25th to 28th November, and I think that is a great learning. It's a very good speakers. It's been very well curated, and I would appeal that this now we have Ascent, we have opened it. Earlier we were only operating in Bombay and in Chennai, but now we opened it to anybody in India because everybody can
Sure.
participate through the virtual route. So if any of your viewers would like to become members of Ascent, and there is a certain process by which you have to apply and you get chosen, but it doesn't cost any money to be a part of the member. If any of them is
Sure.
interested, please spread this word around, and they can visit our website ascentfoundation.in, and you'll get all the information about Ascent and the benefits and how to apply.
All right, Mr. Mariwala, such a pleasure as always having you joining us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. That wraps up our episode. But if you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our contact details is up on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Going into 2021, do you think then
Yeah.
perhaps the worst is behind us? Again, talking about what a lot of experts have been telling us. We've been speaking with the chief economic advisor of the country here on the Leaders of Tomorrow
Hmm.
during the launch week, where he said that yes, we're definitely already in recovery mode. Would you agree?
So I think it depends a lot. I think we're talking of the overall economy or talking of a particular sector, because as they say, the whole recovery is a K-shaped recovery where some sectors are doing well. So you see that those sectors, you have the upper side of K. And then there are certain sectors like hospitality, airlines, hotels, restaurants, not doing well. So they're in that the bottom of K.